Okay, so I went into Solo a Star Wars story with the slightest bit of optimism. Like, this movie has had a very big production problem. Like, they had two directors, they got fired because of, quote, creative differences, or as I like to translate it to, we wanted to do this, Disney said we're not allowed to be ourselves, so basically, fuck it. And that's basically my viewpoint on that part. But, then they hired Ron Howard, who has a history with George Lucas. Originally, he was given the offer to direct Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and that would have actually been interesting. And then I looked up his track record, and he directed the How the Grinch Stole Christmas live-action adaptation, and I was like, huh. Like, okay. And now you're telling him, direct a solo movie, and you need to get an actor who can play the role of Han Solo. Yeah. So, this movie was also written by the person who wrote Empire Strikes Back, Lawrence Kasdan, with his son, I believe, Jonathan Kasdan, and produced by Kathleen Kennedy, who believes that women are not able to identify with Luke or Han because they are men, and therefore you can identify with another gender, even though that is a completely contradictory statement and really makes no sense. It kind of shows that this is not going to work out so well if this continues with her in charge. But along with that, but besides that point, yeah, and then I had heard that George Lucas actually was at the set of the production of the movie, and yeah, here's the thing. I believe at this point George Lucas loves Star Wars, that he will willingly play the role of that father who, while he is divorced from his wife and she took the kid, he still comes around regardless of the other father not liking it because he wants to be there for his kid. That's the vibe I'm getting at this point with George Lucas in Star Wars. Like, George Lucas wants to be there, but Disney and the new mother doesn't want it because the mother and the new father doesn't want it, aka Disney. And he says, no, this is my kid. I should at least have a role in his life. And yeah. And apparently this movie was always thought of by George Lucas, so basically, yeah, let's just go ahead and steal another one. Like, George Lucas apparently began development on a young Han Solo film in 2012. So yeah, this movie is just leftover stuff from George Lucas's vision, which probably would have incorporated the Han Solo trilogy books. Because from what I kept hearing and from what the reports were indicating, a lot of the stuff from the books of Legends was implemented in this movie. Which once again leads me to say, then why reboot the franchise if you're not going to add anything different? At least Rogue One had the gall to go ahead and kill off all his characters, even though they're all young and they could have been marketable. But Disney was like, no, you get to kill them off. We're letting you kill them off. So, yeah, we also are back on Corellia, and the galaxy is in a state of disorder with criminal syndicates competing for valuable resources like hyperfuel coxium. I'm pretty sure I pronounced that wrong, but still. On the shipbuilding world of Corellia, orphan children are made to steal in order to survive as a young Han Solo and his lover, who I kept saying was going to die at the end of this movie, long to escape the clutches of a local criminal gang. After a series of hijinks and shenanigans, they successfully bribe an Imperial officer with a stolen coxium in exchange for passage on an outgoing transport. But his lover is apprehended by their pursuers before she can board. Han vows to return to her and joins the Imperial Navy as a flight cadet. Yeah, here's the thing. There was one other major problem I had with this movie coming in. I kept hearing one of the main plots were going to be how Han Solo got his name. And I was like, wait, why is his... Wait, you mean to tell me his name is just Han? So, wait, does that mean, like, you couldn't have just done the usual parents name their kids Han Solo? Really? You couldn't do that? but instead you're going to try and make it sound like it's more important than it really should have been. Like, even in Legends, I believe, like, Han Solo is part of a very powerful family of Corellia. I don't recall. I could be wrong on that. But Han just didn't want that kind of life, I believe. I don't know. I don't read that much Legend book. I just study all this stuff. Especially since I have that big project that I've been working on for a while. But, yeah. So I was curious of how are they going to give him his last name Solo. I'm curious as to know, and it's the biggest load of bullshit because instead of trying to make it sound like this was going to be a major plot point, they just have an Imperial Navy officer just say, Han Solo, and I'm thinking like, you do realize that he is not Stone Cold Steve Austin. The reason why I say that is because in the documentary about Stone Cold, Zeb Coulter, the guy, that's not his real name, Dutch Mantel, he just gave Steve Williams the name Steve Austin out of a whim when he was just coming up with something accordingly. And I was like, you could have not made that more disappointing. Like at least this is the real world, and this is Star Wars, and they would usually try to build something big up. And, yeah. 3 years later, Han has been expelled from the Imperial Flight Academy for insubordination. And while serving as an infantryman during a battle on the planet Mimban, he encounters a gang of criminals posing as Imperial soldiers led by Tobias Beckett. And, because being the row scoundrel that he is, tries to bribe him, and that ends horribly. And he decides to have him arrested for desertion and thrown into a pit to be fed by a beast. And I was like, wait, this is how Chewie and him met. And sure enough, Han and Chewie, after a little bit of a scuffle, and apparently Han can learn some part of Wookieese, and I'm pretty sure that's not the real language, but still, I was like, so does that mean George Lucas's idea of how Han Solo met Chewbacca completely dead? George Lucas wanted Han Solo to be in Episode 3, and have him show up on Kashyyyk for something, or living on Kashyyyk with Chewbacca, but still. They work together to escape the confinement, and in need of extra hands after being rescued by Beckett, he lists them in the gang's plot to steal a shipment of coxium on the planet Vandor. And the plan goes awry when the Marauders, Enfys Nest and her Cloud Riders show up, resulting in the deaths of two of their crew members and the destruction of the coxium. And for some reason, Woody Harrelson is pissed at Han, even though really that doesn't really make sense. It wasn't really his fault. Like, you would suspect, like, this would end in horrible disaster because of Han. But yeah, I never get a moment in this film that Han screws something so big up that there's this moment like just stop. Yeah, there's never a moment like that. So after Woody Harrelson reveals he was ordered to steal the shipment for Voss, I'm not going to say his first name because it took forever to say Quinlan Voss, but this guy named Dryden Voss, I think, a high-ranking crime boss in the Crimson Dawn Syndicate. Han and Chewie volunteer to help him steal another shipment. They travel to Voss's yacht, where Han finds his lover, who has joined Crimson Dawn. Han offers a risky plan to steal unrefined coxium from the mines on Kessel, which will lead to the Kessel Run of all known storytelling. Voss insists that his top lieutenant, aka Han's lover, who will most likely be killed, accompanies them. And then she leads their team to Lando Calrissian, an accomplished smuggler and pilot who she hopes will lend them his ship. Han challenges Lando to a game of sabacc with the wager being Lando's ship. Lando cheats to win, but is ultimately convinced to join the mission in exchange for a share of the profits. And then we get an Easter egg. Yeah, remember Woody Harrelson's character? Yeah, it's revealed that he killed Aurora Singh. Death by exposition. Well, not death by exposition. No. She got killed by being pushed off a cliff. You mean to tell me that the Scourge of the Jedi, who survived the Slave One in the Clone Wars series, got killed by being fallen to her death? Oh god. I just like, oh god. So let's see. You had a very interesting character with Aurora Singh. You could have done what you've always done, Disney, and just steal stuff from the Legends canon and have an interesting backstory for her, where she was actually a Jedi who fell and left and became a bounty hunter instead of a Sith. But you blew it. You blew it. You had an interesting idea to go with Aurora Singh and tell a story about her in a Star Wars movie, but no, you choose, nah, fuck it, we gotta kill her off, because we need to make this other character sound really important, because we need to get our own characters marketable, even though he's probably gonna die at the end of the movie, but still. So, yeah, and I must stress, in the old canon, Aurora Singh survives at least up until the Second Galactic Civil War with Jason Solo and whatnot, when she's helping, I believe, the Han Solo and Leia, and they even talk about Leia's dad a little bit, but like, yeah, we gotta scrap that kind of interesting angle. We gotta go with this. We gotta go with a guy who's probably gonna die at the end of this movie. So, yeah. So the team boards the Millennium Falcon and head for Kessel. After reaching the planet and infiltrating the mine, Lando's droid co-pilot, L337, it's so close to being called 1337, I wouldn't be surprised if Disney tried to make that happen. And basically, L337 is a liberator of droids. She believes that droids deserve equal rights and is willing to start a riot over it. And I'm thinking, like, so is she secretly an Easter egg for Detroit Become Human, where the androids can revolt? But that's a different matter. But like she was like one step away from being a noxious SJW mentality. Like, I'm not saying droids deserve equal rights in the Star Wars universe, but still. I'm like, and then like she goes in and says, "This is my dream," and they get shot mercilessly. So after they use the confusion and rioting to steal the containers of coxium, L3 is severely damaged and Lando is injured during the escape because L3 believes that Lando has the hots for her, except that wouldn't make any sense. And plus, we don't know if Finn exists yet in Lando's creation of life. Also, yeah. And we see an Imperial blockade, and I was honestly expecting another Easter egg cameo. Like, I kept hearing there was a major cameo that's from a TV show. I was curious because there's a lot of characters from a TV show, and I was thinking, like, oh, is it Thrawn? I seriously hope it's Thrawn. Because, considering that they're having him deal with something that's really insignificant and makes next to no sense regarding Lothal, I think they'll probably hire him. Okay, take care of this little riot that broke out. I'm like, we know you're the Grand Admiral, but we're kind of bored with our lives, and we want you to fight a bunch of teenagers. So Han goes through the Kessel Run, and goes through the uncharted maelstrom that happened, and although the Falcon receives severe damage during the journey, Han successfully navigates the run, and the ship heads to Severin to process the fuel. Okay, so yeah, we get this giant monster consumed by a gravitational well, and I was like, oh wow. Also, I forgot to mention the humor in this movie. It's not the Marvel humor. Like, I was worried. That was one of my big worries. That's one of my issues. Like, I can't imagine someone from the Star Wars universe saying, "Your mama." And I'm thinking, like, did Ryan Johnson assume that this was a Marvel movie? Or did Disney tell him we gotta make it more like Marvel because Marvel's successful? Yeah. Instead, we get a droid that's just... Yeah, there's not that much kind of humor that you would expect in this movie. Like, the one time I actually laughed a little bit was when a droid was trying to stop these two speeders from not identifying themselves and ultimately gets run over. Yeah, that was actually the only hilarious part, and I actually felt like it would fit the Star Wars universe and not "your mama" jokes or, you know, a droid floating through space acting Disney-ish when she starts to sing for some strange reason out of nowhere. It makes me question, why did Disney do this to me? So, anyways, after being confronted by the Cloud Riders, who had tracked them from Vandor because they had a tracking device on them, Lando leaves aboard the Falcon, leaving them for dead. After a confrontation that ends in horrible disaster in terms of Han trying to be tough and whatnot, the leader of the group is revealed to be a she. Yeah, I have several questions from this. One, why was it trying to sound like a man? And from what I heard from her line when she's explaining her backstory, the original leader was also a woman, so why is it a man voice speaking? So, yeah, I'm just wondering why do that. In fact, I just kept thinking, like, is she a Game of Thrones character? Because the way she looks, it looks strangely familiar, like I would see someone from Game of Thrones. I have no idea why. I just find this strangely familiar. Like, she just looks like someone from Game of Thrones. Also, I also learned that John Ferreira, who's working on a Star Wars live action series, which I'll talk about later on in the future. The reason why I never made an announcement is because I was on break talking about that announcement, and I'm waiting for to see a trailer, just like the Star Wars Resistance series. Also, John Ferreira voices Rio Durant, and he's a member of Beckett's crew who gets killed off, and they kept saying he's a very cruel and important alien character. Someone will kill him off in the first 10 minutes. Maybe 15. So, yeah. Woody Harrelson says, "Nah, I don't really want to fight, I just want to leave." And sure enough, yeah, that doesn't end really well when she's revealing that the Cloud Riders are actually not pirates but rebellion forces trying to prevent the syndicates and the Empire from gaining power. And Woody Harrelson leaves after Han tries to convince him to do this, but okay, Han being sympathetic to the cause and the reason, I was thinking, doesn't Han not really care, or is it like, is he okay, I know that his lover is surprisingly not dead yet, but yeah. So afterwards, Voss was alerted to their treachery by Beckett, or Woody Harrelson, and sends all his soldiers to kill the Cloud Riders. However, Han anticipated this deception, and the Cloud Riders kill all Voss's guard, leaving him defenseless. And then Woody Harrelson takes Chewbacca hostage and escapes with the Coxium because Voss is an idiot. And Han's lover, I could try and pronounce her name, but I really don't. don't want to try. She kills Voss and urges Han to save Chewbacca from Woody Harrelson and says she'll join him shortly. Alone aboard the yacht, we get a contact. She contacts her boss's superior officer, and I was like, okay, who's this character? Like, is it the Emperor? Like, he's all hooded and whatnot. And then I was like, oh dear God, you got me this time. It's revealed to be none other than, for the first time, making his appearance since 1999 on the big screen, Maul! Yeah. She informs him of the mission's failure and assumes Voss's position, and Maul just tells her, come to Dathomir. I believe we will be working much more closely. Spoilers! Maul is killed by Obi-Wan, so no one cares. So, yeah, I was a little surprised by this cameo appearance. I thought Maul had stopped trying to do the criminal syndicate things, but he's also routinely stubborn. Like, he still wants to kill Obi-Wan, but it looks like he's still vying for power, and we all know how that's going to end. So, does that mean Maul is going to get his own movie to explain why he's on Malachor? I thought it was because his ship crashed, and he was trapped. I thought that was simple. So, Han Solo catches up and kills Woody Harrelson, called it, and after seeing, the yacht leave with Han's supposed lover, who's not Leia, leave, I was like, oh, she's not dead. So that's a plus. So, Han and Chewbacca deliver the Coxian to the Cloud Riders, who offers Han the chance to join the rebellion against the Empire. Han declines, but is given a single canister of fuel, enough to buy his own ship. Afterwards, Han and Chewbacca track down Lando Calrissian, challenging him to a second sabacc game for possession of the Falcon. And after Han realizes that he's cheating and is a lying scumbag at times, Han decides to take his one strength and win. Han and Chewbacca then head to Tatooine, where a gangster is putting together a crew for a heist. Okay, I was thinking throughout this part, it was like, couldn't you come up with another planet? Because this takes place in 10 ABY, not 20. Not 10 BBY, not 0 BBY. So, shouldn't this have just went to another planet instead of just saying Tatooine, where you'll just assume that Han Solo is just going to meet up with Obi-Wan and Luke? But, I do know the other reason why they said this was because we gotta get Jabba the Hutt. Yeah, this movie's been saying that there's gonna have a sequel coming. There's potential sequel for a trilogy, I kept hearing, and yeah. Yeah, I was like, So they have to do the whole, Jabba the Hutt thing. Also, I was surprised Boba Fett didn't show up, but I get the feeling he's going to show up in the sequel or in his own movie, because it was said that the director who made Logan, which means it's guaranteed to be gold, to an extent, as long as Disney doesn't keep their hands off of it. But, yeah, I was thinking, like, also, Bosk was mentioned in this movie. Yeah. So Bosk is alive. We know that already by the time Empire Strikes Back happens. But no. We gotta kill off Aurora Singh because we hate the prequels to an extent. So anyways, yeah, I was a little surprised that Han's lover didn't die. Like, I was expecting her to get killed off. And I knew Woody Harrelson was going to get killed off. I knew Lando was going to be alive. I knew Han, Lando, and Chewbacca were all going to survive because it's guaranteed for them. They have main character status, at least for Lando until episode 6. We don't know if he's going to be alive by episode 9. Han, he's get killed by his son, Kylo Ren, and Chewbacca, he's still alive. Yeah. Also, the Kessel Run has been fulfilled, so there goes that part. So, yeah. Also, I was trying to wonder what the hell that creature was. But, I just don't care to an extent. But here's the thing. I was more interested in the appearance of Maul. Like, I knew they could cameo a Jedi because Han doesn't believe in the Force, and if they did, like, they've already stretched the logic enough as it is when it was revealed Chewbacca knows Jedi. Like, they could make the argument, even in Legends, that maybe Chewbacca didn't think it was important at the time because the Jedi are all dead, there's just very few remaining, so it wouldn't really matter, so he never brought it up with Han. But, yeah, that's a big, big stretch. So, Maul showing up, I was thinking, so are they going to make a Darth Maul movie? Because I'll be all for that. I would love to see a villain story. Not your typical heroism or people who were jerks and then becomes heroes. I want to see a straight up evil character be the star in the movie. Preferably I would choose Vader and make it rated R for psychological purposes. But still, I'll settle for Maul. He's awesome. But, yeah, Han... Okay, the actor who plays Han, I kept hearing like he had to have a dialogue coach for a lot of parts. He's fine. Really, Donald Gulliver as Lando was really great. So, that's one thing I can say, but... Does it feel like it adds to this universe? No, it's a pretty simple standalone story. Like, you could just cut out the Star Wars story part and just call it Solo. And really, that's pretty much it in my mind. Like, this is just a standalone thing. Like, you would expect it probably would try and add something massive in order to really give this whole, it's the Star Wars universe vibe. But no, it's just this standalone heist movie. Honestly, I kept thinking it was going to be more like Suicide Squad, except done better. But I think they're going to do that with Bounty Hunters movie, with Boba Fett and teaming up with Bosk, IG-88, and probably Cad Bane if he's still alive. Yeah, we never got closure with that character. Anyways, so after that, we go ahead and move forward with that, and I want to see Maul get his own movie. I kind of want to see that now. Also, Donald Gulliver might get his own movie as Lando, since apparently Kathleen Kennedy hinted at that this might be a future project, and I'll be all for it. But the fact that they released this right around the time when you have Infinity War and Deadpool running around, and add in all the public disaster that happened with The Last Jedi and all that controversy that came from it, I was thinking, this movie's not going to do well at the box office. It was reported that Disney themselves gave up. Like, Disney said, yeah, it's not going to be a big hit. Like, we know that. And I think this is like, Disney, think about this. Deadpool 2 might as well be a Disney product because Disney's trying to buy Fox up. Infinity War, and then there's Solo. That's 3 Disney-produced movies. That technically means that Disney has cannibalized itself by building its grand monopoly by buying out all their competition. Like, they got rid of Fox, they'll probably finish up their acquisition if Comcast doesn't want it, if Comcast fails to take it. They'll probably, like, cannibalize themselves if they do this. But, yeah, I just see kind of a somewhat of a disaster if Disney just bought everything up, because then that means they would lose more money in my mind, since you would be releasing films that are bigger than this brand that you own and whatnot. Like a lot of people were saying the same thing. This is not going to make a lot of money. Like, it might break the budget it got, but not really be a big money maker, because the production issues were constantly reported. You have the Last Jedi controversy going on. You have Infinity War, which is which is part 1 of a culmination of 10 years of storytelling. You got Deadpool 2, a movie that was refreshing to people for the comic book genre. So really, and then you got this movie that was being said the actor can't act the role of Han Solo. You got the production problems. You got Kathleen Kennedy's comments saying no girl can identify with Han Solo or Luke because they're men. So, yeah, really, this would have to try and stand on its own against the big boys. So, yeah, this movie was kind of doomed from the start. They should have waited and headed to December. That's the vibe I was thinking. Like, they should have cut their losses and moved this to December. Make it a Star Wars tradition. Star Wars tradition of releasing it every single December at least. And plus, it was refreshing for me to see a Star Wars movie that wasn't constantly saying that we gotta get all our three main cast members miserable as possible to tell this story because, fuck everything they went through in life. Yeah, I like the sequel trilogy so far. I feel like it's not really presenting anything explosive that makes it unique to stand on its own without the need of Legends, but so far that hasn't happened. And instead, they just gun for this. We gotta make Han Solo, we gotta make Leia, we gotta make Luke as miserable as possible, make their efforts mean absolutely nothing, and destroy everything they've worked to build. And it has to also be their fault. Even though, really, Legends kind of did this better with the Yuzon Vong thing and not really having it be out, not being in their control. Jason Solo is a different matter. That's a completely different subject. So, yeah, I thought Solo: A Star Wars Story was fine. It's fine. Everything about it's just fine. Nothing really explosively crazy like you got from Rogue One or risk-taking or something as controversial like The Last Jedi or not really the play safe mode of Force Awakens. It's just fine. Donald Glover was awesome as the Lando. Woody Harrelson was good. The person who plays Han Solo was alright. But, yeah, I don't know what it would have been if the two directors, Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, didn't lead the project. It probably would have been a different movie since it was said 70% of this movie was reshot. So, yeah, and plus since there's already hints that they have signed, that the person who plays Han Solo signed up for 2 more films, I'm getting the feeling either they're going to make a Han Solo trilogy just to compensate the books that happened with the Han Solo story in Legends, or they're going to go ahead and have him in a supporting capacity for something. No idea what, but still. So, those were my thoughts on Solo: A Star Wars Story. This was Neo Reality Entertainment. If you feel like, comment, subscribe, and donate, stay tuned for more.